Chuck Norris gets behind the wheel of his big pickup truck and goes out to fight Invasion USA. Aroma the Educated Skunk is still on vacation, and so he couldn't be here to help us review Chuck Norris's new movie. Where does the skunk go on vacation?
Drive-ins. They hibernate.
They hibernate for the winter, waiting for the big spring pictures to open. So it's kind of amazing, though, that we would have wanted Aroma here to help get on Chuck Norris's case only a few months after Chuck Norris made a really good action picture named Code of Silence, which we both liked. That movie had a lot of good characters, an interesting plot, great stunts, and a real sense of style. And those qualities are all lacking in Invasion USA, which does, however, contain the most idiotic supporting character in any movie this year, and I think that's not even a close call. And it also contains one of the worst musical scores I've ever heard, one of those potted, pseudo-symphonic, you know, boom, 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 while these guys are driving through the streets. A bunch of terrorists, they are, who invade South Florida and start blowing up such American symbols as church services, school buses, and shopping malls. Boom, 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 boom. They'll stop at nothing. They even fire their bazookas at happy suburbanites who are decorating their Christmas trees. Deck the halls with boughs of holly. Boom, 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 boom. American law enforcement officials are, of course, helpless in the face of these invaders. For one thing, Gene, I guess they couldn't see them in the streets with their camouflage uniforms on, holding their bazookas as they drive along in their rent-a-car.
Right.
So the Army calls out Chuck Norris, who turns into a one-man army in his pickup truck.
This? Wow, what a surprise.
Really terrific. Probably the worst single thing in the movie is that horrible supporting performance by an angry newspaper reporter and photographer played by Melissa Prophet. Her only function in this movie is to be an angry woman who shoots photos at random, and I mean at random.
Right. Right.
And then she makes bitter, cynical remarks to Chuck Norris. For example, at one point, he saves her life, and she brushes him off with, "Thanks a lot, cowboy." Chuck Norris is going to disappoint a lot of fans with Invasion USA.
I think you've taken care of the movie fairly well. It's stunningly bad. The other thing is, there's one big logical flaw. Now, the guy that's doing the invading is a Russian. I mean, he's got a Russian name. And
Ruskov, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Okay. Russian. Now, he wouldn't. You don't work alone in Russia. You know, I mean, the government tells you what to do there, right?
You probably wouldn't invade also with Cubans and Orientals on your strike force.
Well, maybe you would, because Red Dawn used a little bit of that too. Okay. But my point is that I don't think that Russia is going to do just this kind of invasion in a limited kind of way and then call it off. And then when Chuck Norris stops, that's it. I mean, I think that they would go in a little bigger way and have a second thing.
Yeah, if I were a Russian general, I would say, Chuck Norris is starting our troops in Florida, so let's drop a hydrogen bomb on Florida, and that will probably stop Chuck Norris.
It also would have made it a much shorter film and a much better film. Now let's review our reactions to the movies on this show. If you haven't figured it out by now, we both hated Chuck Norris in Invasion USA, even worse than his two missing in action films.
That's putting it mildly.